Have you ever noticed how being disrespected can cut deeper than almost any other wound? Imagine this. Someone dismisses your opinion in a meeting, not with argument, but with a smirk. Or maybe a close friend makes a sarcastic remark that belittles something you truly care about. It's subtle, but it stings. And the sting lingers far longer than the moment itself. We all know that feeling. That sudden rush of heat in the chest, the racing of thoughts, the instinctive urge to defend ourselves, to lash out, or at least to make the other person feel just as small as they made us feel. Most people believe that the only options in that moment are either to explode in anger or to swallow the insult in silence, letting resentment fester. But what if both of these reactions are traps, predictable patterns that only give more power to the one who disrespected you? Here's where the story takes a turn. Thomas Hobbes, a 17th century philosopher known for his stark view of human nature, once suggested that the most feared response to disrespect is not fury nor revenge, but something far quieter and far more unsettling. He believed that dignity is not defended by outbursts or by hidden grudges, but by an unexpected kind of composure that shakes the very ground beneath the offender. This is the response most people never expect, and because of that, it carries a power greater than any shouted argument. It is not about winning the moment, but about reclaiming your own authority over yourself. So let me ask you, how many times in your life have you lost sleep replaying words spoken in a careless or mocking tone? How many times have you let someone else's lack of respect dictate the way you felt about yourself? If this has happened to you, you're not alone. It is part of the human struggle. But what if, instead of being trapped in that endless cycle of hurt and retaliation, you could rise above it in a way that not only silences the disrespect, but transforms the way you see yourself? That's exactly what we'll explore today. And if this resonates with you already, I'd love for you to drop a comment below sharing one moment where you felt disrespected and how you handled it. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what we're about to uncover might change the way you face these moments for the rest of your life. Picture this. Someone throws a sarcastic jab at you in front of others. Normally, you might feel your heart racing, your palms sweating, your jaw tightening. The inner voice screams, "Don't let them get away with that." And yet, what usually happens? Either you snap back and the tension escalates, or you swallow it down and replay the moment endlessly in your head later. Both roads leave you unsatisfied. One poisons the relationship, the other poisons your peace. But what if, in that exact moment, you could disarm the insult without even lifting your voice? Imagine being able to look the person straight in the eye, not with rage, but with calm clarity, and letting their words fall flat, as if they had bounced off a wall of unshakable composure. No argument, no counterattack. Just silence, or perhaps a slight smile, that reveals their attempt to wound you has utterly failed. How different would your life feel if disrespect no longer had the power to disturb your inner balance? Picture walking away from a conflict without the need to prove anything, without that gnawing sensation that you've been diminished. Picture being able to go to bed that night without replaying the scene because it no longer defines you. This is not about weakness, nor is it about pretending the insult didn't happen. It's about shifting the stage of the battle. Instead of fighting on their terms, where noise, anger, and ego dominate, you invite them into your arena, where silence, composure, and dignity rule. And here's the twist. Most people are utterly unprepared for this kind of response. They expect fire, and when instead they are met with stillness, it unsettles them far more than anger ever could. So let me ask you, can you imagine a version of yourself that is untouchable in the face of disrespect? Not indifferent, not numb, but resilient. So rooted in self-respect that no outside word can shake it? This vision is not as distant as you might think. It's a skill, a discipline, and above all, a choice that grows out of understanding human nature itself. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll confront one of the biggest lies we've been told about how to respond to disrespect, and why that lie keeps us trapped in cycles of pain. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us have been taught to believe that respect must be demanded, that if someone disrespects you, the only way to restore balance is to fight back, to assert your dominance, to teach them a lesson. Society glamorizes the sharp comeback, The cutting insult, the display of strength that silences the other person. Movies, social media, even childhood lessons often repeat this narrative. If you don't push back, you'll be seen as weak. But what if this belief is precisely what traps us in endless cycles of conflict? What if the obsession with proving ourselves is the very thing that makes us easy to control? Think about it. If your dignity depends on someone else's recognition, then you've already handed them the keys to your inner world. All they need to do is withhold approval, or worse, throw an insult. And suddenly your peace, your identity, your sense of worth are in their hands. That's the paradox. The harder you fight to defend your respect through anger or revenge, the more you reveal that your self-worth is fragile, dependent, and easily shaken. The person who insults you learns something dangerous. They can control your emotions with a single word. And once they know this, they can do it again and again. Hobbes saw this clearly. He argued that humans, driven by pride and fear, often escalate conflicts unnecessarily, creating spirals of violence where no one truly wins. But he also hinted at a deeper truth. The real power lies not in reacting, but in refusing to play the game altogether. Silence, calm, and restraint are not signs of weakness. They are the most unsettling forms of strength. Imagine this. Instead of a heated exchange where both sides walk away more wounded than before, there is a moment of stillness. The aggressor expects fire and fury, but instead encounters an immovable presence, a dignity that cannot be touched. In that moment, their weapon fails. The insult, once powerful, collapses under its own weight. This is not the path most people take, and that's precisely why it is powerful. When you stop dancing to the tune of disrespect, you take back control. You become free, not because others suddenly treat you better, but because their treatment no longer dictates your worth. In the next part, we'll draw on Hobbes directly and see how his philosophy, though centuries old, still offers a piercing diagnosis of why disrespect cuts so deep, and why the feared response isn't aggression, but composure. Thomas Hobbes, writing in the 17th century during one of England's most chaotic political eras, observed something that remains painfully relevant today. Human beings are obsessed with honor. In his masterpiece Leviathan, Hobbes describes how fragile our sense of respect can be, and how quickly the smallest slight can spiral into conflict. He noted that pride and the craving for recognition often drive men to wars that could have been avoided. In his words, disrespect is not just a social inconvenience, it's a direct threat to our sense of self. Think about that. 4 centuries ago, Hobbes was already warning that our demand for constant validation is dangerous, not just to individuals, but to entire societies. He argued that if our dignity depends on the opinions of others, we will always live on unstable ground, tossed about by every careless word. And from this instability comes conflict, resentment, even violence. Now here's the surprising twist in Hobbes's view. The person who refuses to be provoked, who chooses composure instead of retaliation, holds the true power, because in that moment, they reveal that their self-worth is anchored in something deeper than the shifting judgments of others. This kind of restraint unsettles aggressors far more than an angry retort ever could. Literature echoes this wisdom too. In the Iliad, Achilles' rage defines him. It consumes him, enslaves him to his own wounded pride. His fury may be legendary, but it also blinds him, costs him dearly, and traps him in endless cycles of destruction. Contrast this with the Stoic figures of classical philosophy, like Marcus Aurelius, who insisted that the insult itself does not harm you, only your interpretation of it does. When you see the connection, Hobbes is not alone. He stands in a long tradition of thinkers pointing to the same truth. Restraint is not cowardice, it is mastery. So, when Hobbes says the most feared response to disrespect is calm composure, he isn't just offering a personal opinion. He's aligning with a lineage of thinkers, from ancient Greece to modern psychology, who all suggest the same thing. The person who cannot be provoked is untouchable. And that's the perspective we so often miss today, in a culture that glorifies the loud comeback and the public clapback. But what if Hobbes was right? What if the real strength lies not in proving yourself, but in no longer needing to. In the next part, we'll expose the hidden dynamics that make disrespect so powerful, and why breaking free from them changes everything. Let's slow down and ask a simple question. Why does disrespect hurt so much? After all, it's just words, a tone of voice, maybe a dismissive gesture, nothing physical. And yet, for most of us, the sting of disrespect can stay with us longer than physical pain. Why? Because disrespect touches something invisible but deeply vital, our sense of identity. Here's the hidden dynamic. When someone disrespects you, they're not just disagreeing with your opinion. They're questioning your value, your place in the social order. From childhood, we are wired to seek approval from the group because belonging once meant survival. To be dismissed, mocked, or belittled is to feel at some primal level that our place in the tribe is at risk. That's why even a careless remark can trigger such an intense emotional storm. But here's what most people don't see. Every time we react in anger or brood in silence, we reinforce the very chain that binds us. We're confirming that our worth is tied to someone else's recognition. That's the invisible trap, one that most people spend their lives inside without ever naming. And notice how this trap shows up everywhere. In the workplace, when a colleague cuts you off, the real frustration is not just about the interruption, but about the fear that others now see you as less competent. In relationships, when a partner makes a dismissive comment, the wound is not just about the words, but about the unspoken suggestion. You don't matter. Even on social media, a single mocking reply can feel like a verdict on our whole identity. This is why Hobbes was right to see disrespect as such a dangerous force. It can spark feuds, destroy peace, and unravel trust. But here's the deeper problem. We often fight the wrong battle. We try to silence the insult when the real struggle is internal. It's not about controlling the other person. It's about reclaiming the authority over how much power their words will have. That's the invisible battlefield most people never see. And unless you recognize it, you'll always be at the mercy of others' judgments. But once you do, something extraordinary happens. You realize that the key to freedom is not changing their behavior, it's changing your response. In the next part, we'll distill this insight into sharp, unforgettable declarations, statements you can carry with you the next time disrespect comes knocking. Sometimes the truth needs to be put into words so sharp and simple that it pierces through the noise. So let's carve this insight into a few phrases you can hold on to when disrespect shows up in your life. First, the louder you defend your worth, the more fragile it appears. Think about that. Every angry outburst, every desperate attempt to set the record straight, often reveals more insecurity than strength. True dignity doesn't need a megaphone. Second, disrespect only has as much power as the importance you give it. Words are like arrows, but they only wound if you choose to carry them. Otherwise, they fall to the ground, harmless. Third, the calm response is the feared response. People expect retaliation. They expect fire for fire. But when you answer with composure, silence, stillness, or a measured response, you break the script. And in breaking the script, you expose the weakness of the one who tried to diminish you. Fourth, the one who cannot be provoked is the one who cannot be controlled. That's the heart of Hobbes's warning. Rage makes you predictable. Composure makes you untouchable. These are not just clever sayings, they are principles to be lived. Each phrase is a small rebellion against the instinct to let others dictate your value. And every time you remember one of these in the heat of the moment, you reclaim just a little more freedom. Imagine carrying these truths into your next conflict. Instead of falling into the usual pattern, anger, defensiveness, sleepless nights, you pause, recall one of these phrases, and breathe. You remember that you are not here to win the approval of everyone, nor to correct every insult. You are here to live with dignity, to act from strength, not from fear. And here's the paradox. When people see that you cannot be provoked, respect often follows naturally. Not the forced respect that comes from intimidation, but the quiet respect that comes from presence, from the sense that you are anchored somewhere deeper. So the next time disrespect knocks at your door, remember these words. Let them be the shield that anger never was. In the next part, we'll take this even further by exploring the paradoxes at the heart of dignity, how strength often hides in restraint, and how silence can be louder than any shouted reply. At first glance, the logic of respect seems simple. If someone attacks you, you must defend yourself. If someone tries to diminish you, you must prove them wrong. That's the duality most of us live inside. Fight or submit, attack or retreat. But Hobbes, along with many philosophers who came before and after him, forces us to see a deeper paradox. Sometimes the strongest move looks like weakness, and sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Think about this. Anger feels powerful in the moment, but it actually reveals dependence. You explode because the other person managed to reach into your inner world and pull the strings of your emotions. They provoked you, and you danced. In that sense, the outburst doesn't show strength. It shows how easily you can be manipulated. Now consider the opposite. Imagine receiving an insult and not reacting, not because you're numb or afraid, but because you're anchored in something deeper. Imagine offering no counterattack, no justification, only composure. On the surface, this looks passive, but in reality, it is unsettling, even intimidating. The aggressor realizes that their weapon has no effect. And in that moment, the balance of power shifts. Here's the paradox. The refusal to fight is sometimes the ultimate act of strength. Silence becomes louder than rage. Restraint becomes sharper than retaliation. We see this tension echoed across history and literature. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, hesitation is often mistaken for weakness, but the audience knows it hides a deeper reflection. In Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius insists that to remain unmoved by insult is the highest form of mastery, not passivity. Hobbes adds another layer. In a world driven by pride and fear, the person who refuses to be provoked becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. So the question is this: can you embrace the paradox? Can you accept that the response most feared is not the fiery comeback, but the calm refusal to be shaken? That true authority often comes not from dominating the other, but from mastering yourself. This is not easy. It goes against every instinct and every social script we've been taught. But once you see the paradox clearly, you cannot unsee it. And when you live it, everything changes. In the next part, we'll shift from paradox to promise, what you stand to gain when you practice this response, and how it can reshape not only conflicts, but your entire sense of self. Let's be honest. Practicing composure in the face of disrespect isn't easy. It feels unnatural at first, almost like you're betraying yourself by not reacting. But here's the surprising truth. When you learn to respond with calm dignity instead of anger, the rewards are far greater than you might imagine. First, there's the immediate reward, peace of mind. Instead of carrying the weight of the insult with you, replaying it at night, crafting clever comebacks in your head, or feeling your stomach tighten every time you think about it, you walk away lighter. Their words don't live rent-free inside you. You reclaim your inner space. Second, there's the long-term reward, authority. Over time, people begin to notice something about you. They see that you are not easily provoked, that you don't dance to the tune of disrespect. And ironically, this often creates genuine respect. Not the shallow respect that comes from intimidation or fear, but the kind that grows from admiration. People trust those who are steady, who can't be thrown off balance by every provocation. Third, and perhaps most profound, there's the inner reward, freedom. Hobbes knew that humans are bound by their passions, especially by pride and fear. But when you step outside of this cycle, when you no longer need to prove yourself in the arena of insults and comebacks, you begin to live on different terms. You stop being controlled by other people's words, and that is liberation. Imagine the possibilities this opens. You can walk into difficult conversations without fear, because you know no insult can truly shake you. You can engage with criticism more honestly, because you've learned to separate disrespect from truth. You can even transform your relationships because instead of escalating conflicts, you disarm them before they even begin. And here's the promise. The more you practice this, the stronger it gets. At first, it will feel like holding your breath underwater. But soon you'll notice that composure becomes natural, even effortless. And with it comes a quiet confidence. a confidence no one can give you and no one can take away. This is the personal reward Hobbes points us toward. Not revenge, not victory over the other, but mastery over yourself. In the next part, we'll ground this promise in a deeper conceptual framework, connecting Hobbes's insight with psychology and philosophy to show why this approach works on every level. To fully understand why composure is the most feared response to disrespect, we need to anchor it in a broader framework, one that unites philosophy, psychology, and human behavior. Hobbes saw clearly that human life is shaped by two forces, pride and fear. Pride makes us crave recognition. Fear makes us defensive when that recognition is withheld. Together, they trap us in cycles of conflict, because every insult becomes a challenge to our pride, and every challenge awakens our fear of losing status. Modern psychology echoes this. Cognitive behavioral theory teaches that it's not the insult itself that wounds us, but the meaning we attach to it. If someone mocks you and you interpret their words as a verdict on your value, the pain is sharp and lasting. But if you interpret the insult as a reflection of them, not you, the power evaporates. In other words, your interpretation, not their intention, determines the impact. Philosophy adds another layer. The Stoics argued that dignity is not something others grant. It is something you carry within. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly, choose not to be harmed, and you won't be. Hobbes, in his own way, was pointing to the same truth. By refusing to be provoked, you declare that your dignity does not rise and fall with the judgments of others. Even neuroscience aligns with this framework. Studies show that when we react to insults with anger, the amygdala, the brain's fear and threat center, takes control. But when we pause, breathe, and choose restraint, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reason and self-control, steps in. In that moment, we literally rewire our brain toward freedom instead of bondage. So here's the structure beneath Hobbes's insight. Philosophy reminds us that composure is strength. Psychology explains why insults hurt only when we attach meaning to them. Neuroscience shows that composure is not just an idea, but a practice that reshapes the brain. Together, these perspectives reveal why calm composure is not weakness, but mastery, because it transforms the battlefield itself. The aggressor expects a fight. Instead, they face someone who cannot be shaken. That unpredictability creates the most unsettling power of all. This framework shows that Hobbes's warning isn't abstract theory, it's a practical roadmap. And in the final part, we'll bring this journey full circle, inviting you to reflect on your own experiences with disrespect and to step into a new way of responding, one that might just change everything. We began this journey with a familiar sting, the experience of being disrespected. We traced the instinctive responses most of us fall into: anger, defensiveness, silence poisoned by resentment. And then, through Hobbes's eyes, we uncovered a truth that turns the whole script upside down. The most feared response to disrespect is not rage, not revenge, but composure. This is not the easy path. It demands that you master yourself instead of trying to master others. It asks you to step out of the endless cycle of pride and fear, to stop letting your worth be dictated by careless words. But the reward is profound: peace of mind, quiet authority, and the kind of freedom that no insult can touch. So here's where it becomes personal. Think back to a moment when someone disrespected you, maybe at work, maybe at home, maybe in a place where you least expected it. How did you respond? Did their words stay with you longer than they should have? Did you hand them more power than they deserved? Now imagine how different that moment could have been if you had stood in calm composure, untouchable, unprovoked, free. That vision is not distant. It begins with one choice in one moment: to pause, to breathe, to refuse to be shaken. Each time you make that choice, you grow stronger. Each time you resist the pull of anger, you reclaim more of yourself. And over time, you discover what Hobbes hinted at centuries ago, that true strength is not about dominating others, but about mastering yourself. Now, I want to invite you into this reflection. Share in the comments one experience where disrespect tested you, and how you wish you had responded. Not to shame yourself, but to open the door to growth and to remind others in this community that they are not alone in this struggle. Your story might give someone else the courage to choose composure the next time it matters most. And if this conversation resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Together, we are building a space where philosophy, psychology, and lived experience meet. A space where we can all learn to rise above the noise, to carry ourselves with dignity, and to walk the path of true inner strength. Because in the end, Hobbes was right. The calm response is the feared response, and it might just be the one that sets you free.